Hey guys, John here. Today we're going to be making the synth lead from the song Radio from the band Rammstein, and it sounds like this. This is the original right here. And this is my version here. And one more time, the original. And then my version. So originally, from what I understand, this patch actually comes from Omnisphere, so we have to recreate this, and I chose Pigments because Pigments is great and it's a lot of flexibility to recreate sound. So with that being said, let's kind of dive into the patch itself. So for the effects, let's turn all of these off here. It's quite a lot of effects for this one. So let's go to these banks here, and let's turn all these off here and let's focus on the oscillators. So I'm gonna be using two engines with Pigments, the analog for both sides, and I kind of wanted to do a wide stereo thing. So in a nutshell, I have engine 1 going to filter 1, which is getting panned to the left, and then engine 2 is getting sent to filter 2, which is getting panned right. So easy way to think about it, engine 1, filter 1, engine 2, filter 2, and then left and right for both engines. So in the oscillators themselves, we're gonna be using two saw waves. And we're going to be using oscillator 1, oscillator 2 for the saw waves, both at 100% volume, so 0 dB, so no reduction in sound or anything like that. For the drift, it's going to be 0 because I didn't want that drift analog sound to this patch, so I turned that all the way down to 0. And same thing for the engine 2. It's basically the same thing, just a copy of the first engine. Both of them are going to be up 1 octave, so up 12 semitones. Now let's kind of take a look at the filter, because this is really where the, I guess, the meticulousness comes from. So the cutoff is going to be at 1,951 hertz, so a little under 2K for both of these. There's going to be no resonance, and it's going to be the LP36 filter for here in Pigments. And as I said before, this first filter is going left, and the second one's going right. So for example, if I turned off the engine number 2, let's listen to just our track here for a second. If I just listen to the first engine, it's going to be only in the left speaker. And then if I do the same thing for the other one, it's only in the right speaker, and then both of them together, we have a stereo image there. So now really where it comes into is going to be the effects, and I've used every single effects insert as I could, and I also had to use the aux send here for the distortion. So going on the first one, let's turn on our EQ here. So you can tell when it's off, then on. This EQ more so is to kind of accentuate the exact tonality of the synth lead. So for that, I went to this this first band here, and it's at 329 hertz, and I brought the gain up 5 dB, 5.16. I don't really look at the dB numbers too much. I try to just close my eyes sometimes and listen to see how close it is to the original sound. And then for the second one, it's up quite a bit, 12.7 dB at 692 hertz. So with these two peaks, it kind of sculpts the sound a little bit more to the original lead. Makes it a little bit more round, kind of doesn't really focus too much on the topper end of the stuff. Next up, we have a compressor, so let's turn this on here. And obviously this compressor kind of keeping it in check, keeping the dynamic range a little bit smaller, so it's kind of more in the forefront. And it's actually quite a lot of compression, a little over -5, so maybe like -8 around there, sometimes maybe close to -10. The attack is going to be 2 milliseconds, release 48.2 milliseconds. The ratio is about 4:1, so it's technically 4.08/1, but it's basically 4:1. And the next up is going to be the chorus here. Now this one's kind of a subtle one, but definitely an important one. The mix is going to be 18%, and the settings, the rate 0.228 hertz, the delay 0.833, depth 3.88, feedback 0.464, and then the voices are 3, and then it's going to be on the stereo. And then moving on to this next one, we're going to have the delay. Now this one is very crucial too, because before we dive into that, let's take a listen at the delay, see what happens. Right after the synth goes away, we can kind of hear some delays happening. It's right there. So we definitely need to recreate that. So right now, we don't have that. So that's what this delay comes in handy for. So let's turn this on. And as you see this dry wet knob here, I had to automate that down here to kind of give it a little bit more delay when the synth isn't playing, and then kind of bring it back when the synth is playing, not to clutter the sound, and also to get those delays audible. So we have those kind of throwback delays. So in the mix, it does the same thing as this one here. So that's what comes in handy here. So that's why this wet dry knob is automated down here. So for the settings, we have the time synced is 1/4, the fine tuning is 0, feedback 0.404, no spread here, HP frequency is going to be 387, and then LP frequency is 796 hertz. Now next up, we want to add a little bit of reverb to kind of put it in a room. So let's turn this on here. Let's listen before. Now some reverb. Kind of puts it in an environment here. Dry wet setting is going to be 26%, and then the other setting, size 1, pre-delay 18 milliseconds, decay 0.419, damping is going to be 0.6, stereo width 0.5, input high pass 200, and then input low pass 15,000. Now, one thing that I did take a while to kind of experiment with is the stereo pan module here, and I feel like this really kind of drives it in, because listening to the original, it almost sounds like the synth is kind of moving around throughout the stereo field, and this module here came in quite handy. So by turning this on, you'll notice quite a bit different. So here's with it off, and then here's with it on. And it's very, very noticeable in headphones if you have them on. So now with this one here, we have the amount all the way at the top, so it's the full stereo field here. And then the sync is going to be 1/8, and it's going to be on natural. And the most important thing that we've been hearing all the time is the send level for the distortion here. So this has a very particular style of distortion, and I found like soft clip was going to be the closest to it. So the drive is going to be 32.8 dB, and then this dry wet knob is going to be 100% because we're going to be sending the signal to this module here. So we've been listening to that all the time, so it might be a little deceptive, but without it, it sounds like this. So not even close to the original. That's why we're going to really have to add that distortion. It was a minus 11.6 if I remember correctly. So listen how that changes. And that's pretty much it for those effects here. The envelope isn't too crazy, I suppose. The attack is going to be 4.7 milliseconds for the attack. The decay 25 milliseconds. Sustain is all the way at the top at 1, and the release is 57 milliseconds. And those generally, it's hard to say a specific value. You kind of just really have to listen to the track and kind of match it and see where it fades in, fades out, and sustains and all that. But it's such a fast note that it's really the attack and the release that are mainly the most important parts for this. So let's listen again here. This is going to be the original, what we're hearing first here. And then again for what we created here. So there's definitely some slight differences because you can never recreate a patch 100% exactly correct if you don't have the exact same synth or the exact same preset of that synth. But with that being said, it sounds pretty close, and hopefully if you like it, there's a free download in the description below if you want to use this in Pigments yourself. If you don't have Pigments, I would highly suggest to get it. It's a very cool synth, and it goes very, very in-depth. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.